I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt, and it says, "Do one thing every day that scares you." And the truth about scaring is that you don't really need to choose to do anything that scares you. Scary will find you every day, probably. On Monday at Mass, the reading was from the second letter of Paul to the Corinthians, and it's like, sometimes it's like, I've never even heard this before. But it speaks of the God of all encouragement, who encourages us in our every affliction, so that we may be able to encourage those who are in affliction with the encouragement with which we ourselves are encouraged by God. And then goes on for the lines of the passage, and they mention the word encourage 5 more times. So maybe that's an important thing. Encourage, we always think it's like affirmation. Hey, good job. Or we think it's you can do it, like a cheerleading kind of thing. The opposite, of course, is discourage, like you can't do it. But it comes really from the word courage, of course. How do you inspire courage in another person? But it's really about heart. It's about connecting hearts. Gora, courage. It's about somehow connecting our hearts to each other. And because you don't have to find scary. Scary's going to find you every day. But if you're somehow locked hearts with each other, you get through it all. Just as the God of all encouragement wants us to encourage each other as God encourages us. Years ago, I took 2 homies with me on a trip to San Francisco, 2 homies from a neighborhood. A month before, their 12-year-old brother had been killed, shot, and clearly the bullet was not intended for him. He was 12 years old, not a gang member. So bullets were intended for them. So I said, hey, let's go on a road trip. We're going to San Francisco. So I was really kind of startled because they were in the car and we drove and we got to Burbank Airport and they said, what are we doing here? I said, well, we're flying to San Francisco. What? They were completely, totally surprised that they thought we were driving. I said, no, we're flying, we don't have time. They had never flown before, and of course they were very paniqueados, and as usual, I tried to calm them down. So we walk out into the tarmac, and we're going to the stairs that lead up to the back of the plane, and I stop under the wing, and I go, uh-oh. And they come back, and they go, what? I don't know, is it me, or are those rivets loose on that wing? And so they get on the plane, and they fill the 2 seats closest to the window. I have the aisle, and they discover that laminated card that's in the pouch in front of you explaining whatever you're supposed to do in an emergency, I guess. Well, they think it's like a menu at Denny's, and waitress, 2 oxygens over here when you get a chance. Fortunately, she couldn't hear them. And then all of a sudden the pilot gets on in that kind of pilot drone voice, thank you for flying Southwest Airlines, we'll be cruising at an altitude of blah, blah, blah. And so I go, damn, I hate that. And I go, what? Well, it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. I think he's had, some 40s already. Stop that, they're getting more upset at me. And all of a sudden I see the youngest one at the window was looking under the seat and looking in the pouch, and I go, what are you looking for? The parachute. I go, Don, there is no parachute. And what are we supposed to do if the ship crashes? And so I become Mr. Rogers, and I said, well, this is what you do. Is your seatbelt tight? Yeah. Okay, are you sure? Yeah. All right, now lean forward. And so they do. No, you gotta lean more forward than that, and they do. Is that as far as you can lean forward? And I can see their heads nod. I said, okay, now, if you can reach, kiss your asses goodbye, because that's all I'm gonna be able to do. I'll never forget their heads slowly getting up into the red and not happy with me. So, well then, we take off, and they're hanging on to each other, locked arms, like they're two viejitas at a roller coaster at Magic Mountain. They kept doing it, and finally we get up above the clouds. It's a little choppy until we get above the clouds, and then they're just staring out at the window, and they're just undone by this view that they've never seen in their whole life. And the plane has risen above, beyond scary, beyond their own grief, beyond their own terror, to this place of calm. And they're just staring out the window, not saying a word until they can hear the older brother. He reaches over and he puts his hand on his brother's heart. And he says, I love doing this with you. Yeah, do one scary thing, do one thing that scares you every day, and the truth is, don't worry, scary will find you. But we're called to touch hearts and respond to the God of all encouragement, who encourages us, gives us heart, and asks us to be connected by the heart with each other.